Welcome in, everybody, to the number one Group of Five football podcast in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Group of Five guys. Our goal is to bring the publicity, the recognition, the hype, the pride to the Group of Five programs that the mainstream sports media refuses to do. We need y'all to help us do that. Give us a subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Give us a like, give us a share, give us a review, 5-star. You can go to group-of-5guys.com. You can get you some Group of Five Guys swag, or you can follow us on any of the social media platforms at Group of Five Guys. Down to 3 guys tonight. We are without the swag jag, so if you don't want to watch the show without the swaggy, turn it off right now. But we should still be able to put together a good show for you. We're going to talk about the 13 new Group of Five head coaches, and I have got to get something off my chest about, once again, the mainstream sports media and our main man, Deion Sanders. Here comes the show.
I don't have any tooth. I'll admit it. I will brag. Those players did not just go and whip that ass for us to be like, oh, good game. No, we whipped your ass. We took $800,000. Now we're party with it.
Yeah, who cares if you're in the Power 5 conference if you don't win it, ever? Or you don't beat any of the teams in it? Like, what's the point of that? Wouldn't you rather win the conference and say, like, hey, my team is good, than lose the conference and say, well, our conference is good?
Look, they don't call me Tip for nothing. And my tip is, look out for the Group of Five this season. They've been taking it to the Power 5 year after year.
The only quarterbacks that ever get any love are from the Power 5. I could easily list off the top Group of 5 quarterbacks I would rather have than those guys. I would be willing to bet that at least one of them is going to be in the running for the Heisman this year.
Down the middle, James, the lateral to the corner of the end zone. Can you believe that?
Guys, ESPN. Actually, tell you what. This is going to be the Atrocious Award. We are without Swag Bear here tonight. So in honor of him, I would like to take the Atrocious Award, if that's all right with you, Jeff Murphy.
Absolutely. Let me cue you in.
Yes, sir.
It's atrocious. It's atrocious.
If there was a multi-time winner record holder for the Atrocious Award, it would probably be ESPN. Now, our friends over at ESPN have decided that they are going to air one spring game live on their primary network. That's ESPN. So not ESPN2, not ESPNU, not ESPN News. Now, I know what you're thinking. Yeah, probably the Georgia Bulldogs. Nope. Oh, yeah, sure. Probably Nick Saban, Alabama. Nope. Maybe it's Ohio State. Nope. Guys, it is the 1-11 Buffaloes of the University of Colorado. They have decided to put them live for their spring game. And I don't blame the school for this. I don't blame Deion for this. I actually kind of like Deion a little bit. But I blame, of course, the sports media. But University of Colorado is also charging admission for the first time in school history for their spring game. They are taking advantage of these students, of these people that are a little bit excited about a football program. But, guys, ESPN, like I said, they're not putting anybody that was in the playoff, not TCU, not Michigan. None of those spring games are going to be aired on the primary network. It's Colorado. And I have a prediction for you, Jeff. So if you want to bookmark this moment, mark it down, write it down. They are going to hype this train up throughout the spring, throughout the summer, leading up into fall camp. And my God, I would be willing to bet that they are going to receive or be in the top 25 vote getters in the preseason poll because they got a couple of transfers from Jackson State. And then what's going to happen is they're probably going to start 0-5, and then ESPN's going to have their talking heads up there wondering why the American people hate Deion Sanders so much. And you know what? We don't hate Deion Sanders. What we hate is ESPN trying to force Deion Sanders down our throat every day. I'm sick of it. It's atrocious, and I'm tired of it.
It's atrocious. It's atrocious.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. And we've seen this symptom, especially with ESPN, over and over and over again. They just overhype a certain player or a certain team, and they almost set the expectations so unrealistic that they're doomed to fail from the start. Now, I do think Colorado is going to be very, very good. You don't get that much talent to come in one season and not be good, and I think the Pac-12 is kind of down anyways. But I don't know. I mean, I definitely don't think that they should be a top 25. At least not in the first 5 or 6. Like they gotta come out and prove themselves and put a whipping on a couple teams and see what they can do. But yeah, I'm with you, Sprouse.
And I mean the talent. Like, yeah, they got the Travis Hunter kid and they got Dion's son, but like, I mean, Dion's kid wasn't Travis Hunter coming out of high school. He wasn't the 5-star number 1 recruit. I mean, I think he was. Matter of fact, I think he committed to FAU before he ended up going to Jackson State. So he wasn't some, all-time great. I know they got a bunch of other kids that are wanting to come there, and I know he's going to recruit the heck out of high school kids, going forward. But to go from 1-11, I think their only win was an overtime win against either UCLA or Cal. I can't remember which, but I mean, I don't know. I'm telling you, they're gonna be hyping up. Fortunately for the world, is they open up with TCU. I know TCU is going to be losing a lot too, but we gotta hope TCU gets redemption for the national championship ass kicking and puts it to Colorado, so we can put that story to bed in 2023. That's all I'm hoping for.
I wonder where that game is too.
That's a good question. I wonder if it's we can look it up, but it might be a neutral site game. I would doubt that it's at Colorado.
Yeah,
I would borderline money game.
Yeah, I mean, and especially before this, like them scheduling this before the season,
right?
Like I would think that'd be at TCU. I don't think it'd be a neutral site. Like usually, no offense, I don't think those two teams are going to sell out a neutral site.
No,
especially before
it's
all this stuff.
It's at TCU.
Okay, that makes sense.
So, and it's the same thing. Jesse was talking about Anthony Richardson last week on the podcast, and that's the same thing they're doing with that guy, dude. Yeah. I mean, he's fine. I'm not rooting against the guy, except for now that ESPN and NFL Network have just propped him up. And like, I get propping up a player too. I'm fine with that, but at least have a good argument for why you're propping the guy up. Like, prop him up by saying, hey, he's got the size and the arm strength of Josh Allen or something like that. But they're propping up his broad jump, and he's spinning the football on his middle finger between breaks. Like, give me something that actually has something to do with him playing quarterback. And I feel bad because I kind of like Dion. I do. I like some of the discipline stuff he's trying to put in there. I know he's a promoter. I'm a wrestling guy. He's like, he should be a wrestler.
Yeah.
But I'm find myself rooting against him because ESPN's trying to tell me how great he is, and he ain't the one. As much as Dion talks, he ain't the one saying how great they're going to be.
Yeah, no, I mean he just does his thing, and I love how they had a couple spring practices that I've seen, just clips of it, and offensive lineman jumps off sides, immediately pulls him out. He's big on doing things the right way, discipline. So say what you want about the guy, but I'm excited to see what he does at Colorado. Although they're not Group of 5, but coming from Jackson State, I want him to do well.
I feel like it's just going to be hard coming in your first year.
Absolutely.
To have that much instant success, but here we are with ESPN creating this narrative and building this hype up for this team, and then, like Sprouse said, when they start slow, if they start 1-4, 2-3, 0-5, what the narrative is now? What has happened to Colorado? What do you mean? What has happened? This is a 1-11 football team a year ago. Yes, they're bringing in a lot of talented players, but to have that much instant success on the field with that many new guys coming in, it's tough to do. It's very difficult to do.
And that may be why Dion took a job like Colorado, because I feel like deep down in his mind, he knows. I mean, he may turn it around and they may win 6-7 games,
Which would
but
be a huge
oh,
turnaround.
huge,
Yeah.
huge. But he probably knows that if this was, Texas or probably any school in the SEC other than Missouri or Vanderbilt, and they're getting all of this preseason hype, all of this, those boosters and those fans would buy into it. Colorado, I think they're just like, oh, cool, we
They're
got a
excited
new.
to have him.
They're just excited about it, and they'll be excited with any improvement. So Dion maybe knows, like, yeah, the media is going to set this expectation, but our fans are not. And he has got to be a master at the locker room, like how, I hate to say Nick Saban all the time, but like Saban. I mean, Saban is a freaking genius. When the media is hyping up Alabama, he says just the right thing to, like, bring them back to earth. Or when the media is crushing Alabama, saying they're done, he says just the right thing to motivate them to get them back to, national competitors. So Dion's going to have to be like that. I mean, a couple more Aflac commercials, and Saban might show him the ropes a little bit.
To your point, real quick, Sprouse, we're going to talk about him in this show, but Tom Herman, when he was at Texas, in his final year, he goes 7-3. Like, that's a good season. Goes 7-3 in the 2020, Corona season. Then he gets fired after that. So if Dion goes to a bigger school than Colorado, where a 500, 7-8 wins is unacceptable to them.
Yeah. Well, and then plus two, just being out west, once the season starts, I mean, they can talk about them all they want, but if they're not if they're not 7-0, 8-0, playing in the Pac-12, I mean, their games are going to be on at 11 o'clock at night. ESPN will stop talking about them real quick if it comes to that. But before we get into these coaches, so there's 13 new Group of 5 head coaches. A lot of them are first-time head coaches altogether. Before we talk about that, let's talk about Prize Picks. NCAA tournament is going on. So there's like 1,000 players you can choose from. As long as you choose up to 2 guys, you can do just about any daily fantasy, multiple players, multiple sports. Download Prize Picks. Use our code GOFG. They will match you up to $100 on your first time deposit. So make sure you download Prize Picks. So 13 new head coaches. Talked about Tom Herman. Of course, you got Jamie Chadwell. What do you guys think? Let's talk about who we think's going to have the most success right away in year one, and then I kind of want to go down the list, talk about how we think all of them are going to do. Just a little bit of background, where they came from, what's going to lead to success for them. So I'll start with you, Murph. I know you got a couple that you think are going to come in and have success right away.
Yeah, and I've talked about them a little bit before, and this is not the shirt that I'm wearing. I'll get to them in a minute, but I'm going to go the Charlotte 49ers. I think Biff Poggi coming in, he's bringing a ton of talent, a ton of players that he had he was at St. Andrews. Let me look just to make sure that I'm not wrong. I'm sorry, St. Francis Academy, and that's in Maryland, in Baltimore, if I believe. And
Powerhouse.
One of the best top high school programs in the country. And he's had tons of players that have played for him there that have gone on and 4-star, 5-star guys at Michigan, at other schools all around the country. And he goes to Charlotte, gets on, and lo and behold, with the transfer portal, he's bringing all these guys in. I think he's got something like 15 or 16 guys that have played for him before and have played together at one point or another. So you're talking about going into a program that needs a rebuild, but you're bringing in a bunch of guys that have played for you, that know what your expectation are, that have played with each other, so already have that rapport with them. And these guys aren't scrubs. You're talking 3 stars, 4 stars. I mean, high quality players that have played either at Michigan or Mississippi State, or a couple guys have bounced around. One guy was at Alabama, and then he bounced around to another place. Like, you got some top talent that are now coming into Charlotte. That I think it's just going to give them an absolute huge boost. I think they got 5 receivers, if I'm not mistaken, that are coming in, and they lost. We know they lost Grant DuBose last year. Chris Reynolds is gone, but seems like they're bringing in a ton of talent. And he did a great job at St. Francis, so I don't know why it would be any different coming into Charlotte. And there just seems to be a buzz there. I mean, our good friend Jimmy Touchstone out there, and the Normulance guys. I mean, they seem absolutely bought in, fired up, and we know they loved Healy before, but just kind of seems like a little bit different buzz out in Charlotte.
Murph, how long was he at Michigan with Harbaugh? Was that just like a year?
Let's
Do we know?
see. Yeah, he was the assistant head coach. I want to say it was for two seasons, I believe.
That seems to be, especially at the group of 5 level, it seems to be the new strategy. Hiring, you look at UTSA with Jeff Traylor, hiring a guy that was really successful in the high school ranks for a long time. You think about Charlotte, relatively close proximity to Maryland, to where St. Francis was. So, and St. Francis is such a powerhouse. It's at the high school level, it's such a brand name. So, that all the high school coaches around Charlotte and North Carolina and Maryland and Virginia, the DC area, that they know St. Francis and they know Coach Poggi's name. So he's already going to have a relationship with the local, the high schools in those 3, 4, 5 states around that area. So he's already hitting their transfer portal hard. That's probably going to be a short-term plan just to fix now. And then once he starts recruiting the high school kids, Charlotte is a prime spot to be really, really good. Now, I think his challenge in year 1 is welcome to the American Conference and, welcome to playing Tulane and East Carolina and still UTSA and UAB. So I think that's going to be his challenge.
Yeah, no doubt. It's definitely going to be a step up in competition coming from Conference USA. But then again, and one thing I forgot to mention, we talked about it before as well, like, HBO came and did that special on St. Francis. Guess what? They're coming to Charlotte doing a special with Poggi again. So it's just kind of like, I mean, this guy's got the buzz around town. He's got players coming in through the transfer portal. I think that's a huge asset, like you said, Sprouse. Not only does he know high school coaches in the area, I guarantee you he knows all the top high school coaches in the country. Mm-hmm. So when he goes into these high schools wanting to recruit them to Charlotte, like, he's gonna get a damn good swing at some of these kids. Yeah. So you got that, and then you got the extra hype with HBO coming in. Like, how it is nowadays. Like, that's a recruiting pitch, man. You come here, we're doing a documentary. You're going to be on HBO. This is going to give you more screen time, more publicity with the NIL, with everything that goes along with it. So, it's going to be interesting to see. Definitely a tough conference, but I think they're a team to look out for.
What's absolutely fantastic is all the hype around this guy, and he still has the blank egg as his Twitter profile picture. Like, the guy hasn't. I don't know what his voice sounds like. I barely know what he looks like. I'm not even entirely sure that his main Twitter is actually him. And yet he's got all this buzz, all this hype. How's the guy contacting recruits? Handwritten letters, probably.
I bet you he is.
Probably. But, yeah, no, that's a good one, Jeff. Who else you got on your kind of top 3 or 4 list there?
I'm going to go Texas State. I think G.J. Kinney coming in, and this is we've seen this theme as well with some of these schools. He's a Texas guy. He played there. He was on the roster at Texas as a quarterback, kind of got lost in the shuffle, ended up going to Tulsa, playing quarterback there, had a great career there. And you know who his coach was? Gus Malzahn, offensive guru, right? So he plays under Gus Malzahn, learns a lot. His coaching career, he goes to Hawaii, was their OC in 2020, then goes to UCF with Malzahn, was the OC and quarterback coach 2021, and then he goes to Incarnate Word in 2022. First season as a head coach, they go 12-2, lost in the semifinals, but he has started just a mantra over there at Texas State and San Marcos, and their kind of slogan is "Take Back Texas." They really want to recruit Texas hard. I mean, say what you want, Texas has been a recruiting hotbed for high school football for years. Some think it's the number 1 state to recruit. And out of the transfer portal, and he kind of got in late, so he didn't get a huge signing class from high school, but through the transfer portal and for what he has from high schools, out of the 33 guys that came in, 28 of them are Texas born, played in high school in Texas. So he's really trying to stick to this. And they got a couple huge transfers. Malik Hornsby is a quarterback at Arkansas. He was the backup. He's a smaller guy, didn't get a ton of playing time, but he's a Texas native. Comes in, This guy's a phenomenal athlete. He doesn't have the greatest arm in the world, doesn't have the greatest accuracy, but you're putting one of the top quarterbacks athletically, the ball in his hands on every play. And then I think one of their biggest signings out of the transfer portal was Drew Donley, receiver out of Cincinnati. He mainly returned kickoffs for him, but this guy's a 4'3", 6'2", 4-3 burner on the outside. And they have tons of other guys that are coming in on defense and offense. He's bringing 5 of the offensive linemen he had at Incarnate Word. And another thing kind of similar to Poggi, he's bringing in guys that know him, that know his philosophy, that know his scheme. That is huge, especially in year one, as far as getting everybody bought in, just the continuity. They can show everybody else how, he likes to do it. And people kind of they're talking about him. He's just a young mastermind offensively, which I think Texas State has lacked in the last few seasons.
That game that Incarnate Word lost in the semifinal, what didn't they have 60 plus or almost 70 points? I think in that game.
I think so. I
remember it being a shootout.
Yeah, I mean they put up points down there, man.
I also remember on that. This is a random thing, but when we were in San Antonio, when I was waiting for y'all, when I was roaming the streets of San Antonio in the middle of the night, and Incarnate Word was doing their uniform reveal, their shoot. Don't remember who it was. 2 players and the video social media girl were doing their photo shoot. Just like friendly, professional, like shook hands. I went up and said what's up to them, just asked them about their game before they played Furman, I think it was. And says something about the culture. I mean, I know that's 2 guys. Who knows? Maybe, whatever, but just something about 2 well-spoken guys, nice, friendly, excited to talk. They wanted to talk about Incarnate Word. They wanted to talk about their game. They wanted to talk to fans. I don't know if those guys went with them. I don't know if they graduated. No idea, but says something about the culture that guy can build.
Yeah, and one last thing before we move on is I know it's the Sun Belt. It's one of the toughest Group of 5 conferences, in the country, but you just get a young, charismatic guy that loves football and knows what he's talking about offensively. He'll bring in defensive guys to kind of help that side of the ball, but I just think, again, it's just the energy that these guys give off. It's infectious. It spreads not only through the players, through the coaches, through the administration, through the staff. I mean, they're fired up down there in San Marcos, and I think they're going to have a shot to make some noise right away.
Sounds like we may need to take a trip back to the old San Marcos River.
We missed it last time, Sprouse. Instead, but I'm ready to go back. But apparently, we had some on one of the Swag Jags lists not too long ago. Some people in San Marcos weren't too happy they weren't on there, or not high enough, I believe. And
listen,
it's because he didn't even go to San Marcos.
No, he didn't know. You know what I mean? I mean, you how many times do I have to say on here that a simple retweet from the Group of 5 account, Group of 5 guys' main account, does not equate to an endorsement of anything that any of us may say. If any of us have some kind of opinion about a ranking or a team or a school, that does not speak for all of us. Anyway, who else you got, Murph?
Let's go to. I got a couple
Tip,
more,
sorry.
but I don't want to steal all the thunder. Let Tip go.
All right, so someone I think is going to have success year one. How about Tim Beck going to Coastal Carolina? Mm-hmm. He's got a lot of returning players coming back, and they still got a good roster there. So a little more about Tim Beck. The last 3 seasons, he's been at NC State as the offensive coordinator and quarterback coach. He's also been an offensive coordinator at Nebraska, Ohio State, and Texas. This is his first head coaching job, but like I mentioned, he's got Grayson McCall coming back. We have Steeple's son, Sam Pinckney, coming back. I'm excited to see what Tim Beck does with this offense, with these guys that have already been in this offense. They're going to have to learn a new offensive scheme, so that might take a little bit of time to get used to. They might start off a little slow, just getting used to the new playbook and everything. But I'm excited to see how this offense looks this season with Coach Beck there.
and also new offensive coordinator Travis Trickett
Yep.
repping the Group of Five guys hoodie at practice the other day.
Huge.
I mean, that equates to at least 2 wins, I think, last time I checked. But yeah, to me, dude, these guys, a lot of it comes down to what kind of team, what kind of roster you inherit, or, with guys like Poggi, what you can get in the transfer portal. And Coastal, I mean, they've got arguably the best returning quarterback, one of the top in the country, one of the probably top 4 or 5 in the country, definitely in the Sun Belt. So you get something like that. I mean, that's an automatic. It's kind of a safety net, if you will. Like it can only get so bad when you got a guy that's that good playing quarterback.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say is you got one of your most important pieces who has been there, is familiar with the school, with the players. Like, he is going to help be a leader on the field, in practice, in the weight room, everything, to kind of help some of these guys kind of get bought in on this new system. And Tim Beck, man, that offense at NC State the last couple of years has been humming. So I can't wait to see him get over there with Grayson McCall. And not that Chadwell, did a bad job. It's just he had a little bit different kind of style. But I think their offense isn't going to skip a beat. And you got, like we said, Steeple's son over there. I think you got a lot of returners on that side of the ball. It's going to be huge.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of, he's a, quote, first-time head coach, but I like that he's been around. He's been at a lot of places, a lot of experience, probably seen, worked for a bunch of different coaches, worked with a bunch of different coaches, seen all kind of players. I'm a big fan of that long-term at a place like Coastal, so I am looking forward to see how they do. What about Trent Dilfer at UAB? I mean, it's a splash. It was kind of I don't think anybody knew that was even coming, but it's a name. It's a splash hire. The questions I have on Trent Dilfer is he trying to just climb the coaching ranks? Is he just trying to see if he can do it at the college level? What's the next step for him? Is he a long-term guy? But I mean, he'll be able to coach the quarterbacks.
Yeah, and I think he's going to be actually a lot better than people think. I think he's a smart offensive mind for sure, but he's coached at Lipscomb Academy, which is in Nashville, the last couple of years, and 2021 and 22 they won the 2A state championship. So I mean, we have a couple other guys that are coming, again, starting out kind of in the high school ranks and moving up, and then you got the name, that the notoriety, so that's going to automatically help him as far as getting recruits, just because he is Super Bowl champion Trent Dilfer. And I would say this is honestly one of the biggest pieces. Is we know McBride left, but boy, they had a stud behind him. Jermaine Brown Jr. as a backup, was not the starter. 948 yards and 8 touchdowns last year as a backup, almost 1,000 yards. And he had some more receiving yards on top of it. So I think you got a great piece at running back. Dylan Hopkins, their quarterback, is transferring out. I'm interested to see who and why he did that. Obviously, Trent's got somebody else in mind. That's the only reason why I could think that. I haven't seen anybody in the portal coming in, so maybe he's got a high school kid that he really likes. It'll be interesting to see there. But they already have gotten 3 or 4 receivers that are 3-star receivers coming in that look like, they look the part. Big, can run, can catch. So it's going to be interesting to see how the offense rolls down there. But you got a fantastic piece to build off of in that running back spot.
And one other thing for Dilfer too is before he took the Lipscomb job in high school, he was doing, I don't know if he was who he was working for, or he was kind of doing like quarterback consulting.
He was doing a camp, wasn't he?
Yeah, I remember when matter of fact Tua was coming out and it was COVID, so they couldn't do pro days or whatever, they couldn't do stuff, and he had, he put Tua through the workout or whatever, and he was the one selling everybody on how good he was going to be. And obviously, Tua, whatever he's been, but obviously he got drafted really high. So if you are a quarterback and your next step, you think you want to play in the NFL, you obviously got a guy that won a Super Bowl as a quarterback, was, if a very elite quarterback playing for the Baltimore Ravens circa early 2000s. Certainly didn't win it off of an elite defense and a great running game, Tip. But no, you got a guy that won a Super Bowl as a quarterback and then, coached a few quarterbacks to make it to the NFL and obviously has a relationship with the GMs and the scouts at that level. So, and dude, UAB, man, they got top 3 or 4 facilities in the group of 5.
Yeah.
I mean, Birmingham, the whole state of Alabama is really, really good high school level. So huge recruiting grounds. Even though you are competing against places like Bama and Auburn, but there's so many kids out there now that I don't think that really affects other than the top guys. But I will tell you this, Jeff, you mentioned big receivers, and I looked at this week and I forgot to bring it up. Tip, did you see our boy from Buffalo, Justin Marshall's pro day numbers?
I didn't see those
He's
numbers.
it, dude. 4.39 40, 38-inch vert, 14 reps on the bench, 10.6 broad jump. And we know, what is he, 6'10", 215? Or 6'10", 6'2", 6'2", 215?
Yeah.
He's large.
Yeah. He's a
Yeah,
good
and
player,
he
man.
looks, he's one of those, kind of what Murph was talking about earlier. He looks the part. We were at that bowl game, and me and Sprouse both, who is that guy? I can't remember his jersey number with
One.
number one. Yeah, who is that number one guy? And I mean, they were just throwing to him the entire game.
Yeah.
He had like 12, 13, 14 catches that game. He looked the part. He was the part, and then those pro day numbers back it up. And more than likely, guys, he probably still won't get drafted for some reason. So some team is going to pick this guy up, and then we're going to hear how he's lighting it up in training camp. He's having one of the best training camps of anyone at this NFL team. And we're here to tell you that we told you so.
We called it in freaking December at the Camellia Bowl, Montgomery, Alabama. After waiting 45 minutes in line to get into the stadium, Justin Marshall, literally, dude, he comes off, he's running to our side, and they don't even, before they even run a play, me and Tip are like, who the hell is that?
Who the hell is that?
Yeah. And then they just kept going to one, dude, the whole game. But anyway, back to these coaches. So a guy that I think everybody thinks is going to be very successful is Jamie Chadwell going to Liberty. I mean, he's going to a great place, a great spot. Obviously, a ton of success at Coastal. One thing to look at for him, though, in his first official year as head coach at Coastal, 5-7. So Liberty, I don't really know what they have coming back. They're entering a conference for the first time, really. So a lot of variables with them. I know he took most of the staff from Coastal with him. So I don't see any reason why Liberty's not going to be. Unfortunately for our Blue Raiders at middle, Liberty's going to be one of the top Conference USA teams, I think, right away.
Yeah, and I think that's their biggest advantage is you're going into Conference USA where you lost San Antonio, you're losing, the 49ers, you're losing a couple of top teams, and you're going in and going to kind of have your ability to run the table with the talent that they have coming back. And I mean, Chadwell, say what you want, you don't like him, you hated Coastal. You got plenty of guys, voicemails that call in that don't like those guys, but you got to give the guy credit, man. I mean, he won ball games, and that's what matters is that stat. Won ball games, had top players each and every year. He seems to be able to recruit very well, and you're going to Liberty where you got all the backing, all the tools, facilities, everything that you need at your disposal. So I'm excited to see what he can do with it, and who knows, maybe they can be one of those teams that runs the table and have a case to get in, or whenever they do decide to expand the playoff, might be one of those teams.
Yeah, Liberty has, I don't know the facts on this, but they've probably got the most financial backing of any school in the Group of 5. I know that they have one of the largest online universities in the country. I know that their former president, I think their last president's father, I believe, is maybe the founder of Liberty. I know that when he passed, something about a life insurance policy, and they left a ton of money to that university. So they have they have some finances available that a lot of people don't have. So interesting to see with Chadwell. I'm actually surprised that Grayson McCall didn't go there with him. Maybe McCall's not really doesn't fit the Liberty, kind of the university that what they stand for, or academics, or whatever it may be. So that's kind of a situation. Certainly not comparing Chadwell to Belichick or McCall to Brady, but it's one of those deals where, how does each of them do without each other? So that's going to be pretty exciting to see those two.
And I think this is a perfect first year for Chadwell with Liberty going into the new Conference USA, when you have new teams like Jacksonville State, New Mexico State, Sam Houston, and like what Murph mentioned earlier, you had those teams that are now in other conferences. I mean, you look at the teams in Conference USA right now, you have to assume, maybe, based on Liberty's recent success and with Chadwell's success of coming into new schools, new football programs, and quickly turning those teams around and making those teams good, you got to think that Liberty and probably Western Kentucky are your top two teams in the Conference USA going into the season.
Yep. Yeah, Western Kentucky got a new locker room the other day. So they have upgraded their facilities. I know they were locker room wise, they were a little bit behind, but that thing looks sweet. It looks top of the line. So yeah, I agree, Tip. Liberty and Western. I mean, after that, it's you. I mean, you like to think middle would be right there. I mean, as far as we always talk about branding and long-term success. As far as that goes, I mean, middle's in the top 2 or 3. They've just got to be able to stay healthy. But anyway, that's not what this show's about. We can talk about that all day. Tom Herman getting back into it at FAU. A really interesting hire. Came out of nowhere, I thought. But that's a guy that 5-6 years ago was the hottest name in college coaching. First, he was fantastic at Houston. First year at Houston, they went 13-1. Tip, you talked about it earlier. It looked like he sort of had Texas on the right track, but they were too impatient. They only gave him 4 years. Gets out of coaching for a little bit, goes to FAU, where we say it all the time. They always got guys. They always got players down there. It's just a matter of putting it all together. And we'll see. I mean, we'll see what he can do. You guys think, what was his first year at Texas? 5-7, I think he went.
7-6.
7-6, and then they hovered around 500, right? The second year.
Second year was 9-3.
9-3, and then they had a losing season, and then they went 7-3, right? And then maybe there's one more in there. But anyway, Texas just couldn't wait. I mean, they couldn't wait. I mean, they ran him out of town, and they're still looking. Now they got a guy that's trying to beat up videographers in the middle of the punter. Has one too many scotches that morning, and he's trying to fight freaking interns.
I like this move by Herman, though, because this kind of reminds me of when Kiffin went down to FAU, had success, and then ended up, kind of just used that. I think Todd Herman, if he's wanting to get back, into coaching, not a Texas, but like a big program, he looks to probably be using this FAU job as that kind of like a stepping stone in his career. And Kiffin had great success down there at FAU. And I mean, like we've mentioned before, there's a lot of talented high school athletes down there in the state of Florida. So if Herman can recruit well, which I think he can, I can see FAU having great success with him there.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. Another one in the state of Florida. Guys, I'm back on it. I am back on the bandwagon. South Florida Bulls. New head coach Alex Golish, University of Tennessee offensive coordinator a year ago. So on a serious note.
Was he really the offensive coordinator, though?
Yeah, sure he was.
He's a hypo
in the title.
I mean,
it's on his resume.
Guy. Yeah.
Yeah, he may have not been calling the plays necessarily, but here's what I will say about that. South Florida, just like Florida Atlantic, just like all the Florida schools typically, and most of the Texas schools typically, They always got guys. They always got athletes. One of the reasons that Tennessee, in my opinion, had as much success as they did a year ago was it's this new offense with all these athletes, and the defenses are like, holy shit, what is this? We've not seen this before. So I hope to God, in Tennessee's case, they come back to earth a little bit this year when people start to figure them out. They lose the quarterback. But for South Florida's case, strong chance that's the case, for them in the American is, it's this new fast-paced offense. They got all these athletes. They're putting up 50 points every week. And, I mean, they put up 50 points a couple times last year and couldn't stop nobody. So hopefully they can turn that around. But telling you, look out.
I'm going to assume he's going to probably put his own little, twist and stuff on, on the offense. But I can see it being very similar to how Heupel has ran his offense at UCF and then now at Tennessee. This could be exciting to watch for South Florida Bulls. This offense could be real fun to watch. You get some athletes down there, like I just mentioned, a lot of good athletes down in the state of Florida with those good high school programs down there. So, yeah, I'm really excited to watch. I'm me personally. I played a
Get
little
on the
wide receiver
bandwagon
back
now,
in the day. I'm big on watching good offenses scoring a lot of points. So, I'm excited to watch what he can do there.
Well, and they've already hit the portal. I mean, I'm just looking at it right now, and have a couple 2 or 3 4-star. Naquan Wright out of Florida is coming over. You got Seth Jones, who's a 3-star from Baylor. You got DJ Harris, who's a 4-star edge rusher from Texas. I mean, Kendall Dennis is a 4-star cornerback from Oklahoma. I mean, they're getting guys now coming in from these, Power 5. Lloyd Summerall, he's another edge rusher out of Florida coming in. Couple tackles, one guy out of Houston. I mean, they got guys coming in. They have a few guys leaving, but I mean, he seems.
And I bet you a majority of those guys are local guys, and they're coming back home, and they're like, he's saying, "Hey, you want to come play immediately, get playing time, and help turn this program around with me?" That's exactly what's happening.
He's just got to. I mean, the same with Kenny at Texas State. All these guys, they just got to recruit local. I mean, if he can recruit Tampa, Hillsborough County, if he can go down to Polk County and recruit Lakeland, I mean, there's no telling. I mean, we talked about them last show doing the Blue Blood show. They are the school, in my opinion, that has zero reason to not be a group of 5 Blue Blood. Zero reason. And they just, I don't know if it was like the city of Tampa or whatever, they just approved an on-campus stadium at South Florida. So
nice.
That's a big now. That may take 10
I don't know
years.
if you said this, person, I might have missed it, but their facilities are ridiculous down there.
Yeah. Well, except for they play in an 80,000 seat NFL stadium, which is a big part because even if you get 20,000, 30,000 fans at the game, it's empty.
Yeah.
And that sucks. And especially it's probably 45 minutes away. No college kids want to go wait downtown Tampa or wherever the hell that stadium is and sit in traffic and pay $12 for a beer, and they don't want to do that. So anyway, you got to get on campus or close to it. Barry Odom at UNLV. UNLV, I'm surprised they fired their coach, first of all.
Yeah.
They looked really good to start the year last year. I thought they were getting better. Had a few
injuries, and then and
had some injuries. This guy, he coached at Mizzou for a long time. Mizzou is a really, really tough place to be successful, and I don't know if he was there. I don't know the years. I don't know if he was there during Big 12 years or SEC years. But I know they were about 500.
2016 to 2019, he was the head coach at Missouri.
So that's SEC, right? Did he play for any of the Missouri went to the conference championship a couple times. No, not that recently. They haven't. I don't think.
I remember Missouri's first year in the SEC. I think first or second year they were very good, but I can't remember what year that was. I can't remember what year that was.
I don't. Well, I don't know. But then, and he may have been now. Now it's coming to me when Missouri had. Like some, I don't want to be political here, but Missouri had some turmoil, if you will, and he may have been the head coach during that time. I'll look it up. I'll talk to y'all after the show about it. But Missouri went through kind of a rough patch during some of the really heated protests we were having in this country for a couple of years there, and I don't know if he was the coach during that time or if that had anything to do with it. But UNLV, I mean, that's a good spot in my opinion. They lost the running back. Running back Robbins transferred to BYU, which is a weird transfer spot. But
Vegas to
rumor has it that when the BYU guys want to party, it's only like a 3-hour drive to Vegas, and they just stay the weekend. Don't let them fool you, Jeff. Anyway,
well, real quick back on him. He and then he had the last 2 years at University of Arkansas, which, I mean, honestly, they've been a lot better the last few years. They just haven't been the entire whipping stick of the SEC, but I don't know. I'm excited for him. I think being in Vegas and playing in the Allegiant Stadium. I mean, I would say that's their one thing that does suck is from a fan standpoint. It's the same thing kind of that we talked about before, playing in that huge stadium. But I don't know. I don't understand why UNLV is not better.
I don't either. You have Bishop Gorman literally right there.
Yeah. And all you got to do is you don't even have to get their best guys. You just got to get their guys. You got to keep all of their, second tier, because their top guys, they're the Tate Martells of the world, are going to go to Ohio State. You don't have to get him, thank God.
Yeah.
But you can certainly go get the offensive guard, that weighs 260 in high school. That's just not getting the looks from the rest of the country. You can go get him. You can go get some receivers that plays slot at Bishop Gorman and can come be a stud at UNLV. And then, I mean, I hate to say it because I just used Tate Martell as an example, but you'd think that most of those guys would have that winning culture, from winning so often that they could come in and they just expect to win always.
Yeah, well, I would honestly just scratch Bishop Gorman and let's just go straight to Bishop Sycamore, because we know that is where all the athletes reside.
That is true. That's a good program they're running out there. But yeah, no reason UNLV can't be successful. But plus, you're right there by California. You go recruit California too when you need guys. But one that I'm not sure about that I think is probably the toughest to predict, just because the transfer portal is irrelevant in this case. But Brian Newberry at Navy, he's been there for a few years already, I think, as the DC. With Navy, you kind of know. I mean, to me, there's not going to be a huge culture shift because those guys are Navy guys. They're not, Ken Niumatalolo guys. They're not Newberry guys. They're just Navy guys. They're academy kids. They're going to be who they're going to be. So I don't know what you do necessarily if you're a new coach coming in there, especially if you're a coach that's been on the staff for a long time. I mean, I don't really know where to go with this one.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I just think it's such a tough place to really build. I mean, Air Force has been able to do it consistently for the most part, but Navy's just had a tough time of really getting, top quality talent and developing it, for 4 years and being able to stick with it consistently. So I don't really know, the recipe or what needs to happen. I assume they're still going to run what the academies run, but I'm just, that's just not my favorite style of offense. I think they need to get away from it.
Yeah, and if you can get a quarterback at one of those places, it solves a lot of your problems. Like Navy had a really good run when Malcolm Perry was their quarterback. Air Force looked really good last year with a good quarterback and a good running back. And yeah, I mean, the offensive line makes it go, but the quarterback making the reads, being able to throw when they have to is, it might, we talk about it. These guys throw 2 or 3 times a game most of the time. But if they have to throw 7 or 8 times a game, can they make the throws? Can they, when they drop back, can they extend plays? It's not just the triple option of being able to make those reads, but that's a huge part of it for sure.
I just think too, just that style of offense. When you get down, you don't have a way to adjust your game plan really to come back. And, a lot of people, you want to do the triple option. Sometimes your offensive line tends to be a little bit smaller, so that's why you cut, and now you're getting around, and you're expecting the defense to two guys to bite on the dive, and now you're going out the side, where it's like, yeah, you can look at it that way, or you can look at it when the spread offense kind of came out is similar kind of issues. Is you can't really recruit the top guys, big linemen, you can't really get them because all the bigger schools. So what we're going to do is spread you out, make you cover 53 and a third yards sideline to sideline, and get our best guy on your worst guy matchup wise in space. And that's why I've never understood why they don't try and change that up, and somebody to go spread and just get athletes out there and throw the ball around, and at least you have a chance to come back if you get down by 2-3 scores. I don't know. I guess they bank on the clock, burning the clock and keeping the score close, and maybe we can win it at the end.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and then what you got, Tip?
So I have a couple of positives. The one positive is he was the defensive coordinator there for the last 3 or 4 seasons. Their defense has been solid. They've had a really good defense. The other positive is the new offensive coordinator that they hired, Grant Chestnut, comes from Kennesaw State. He's been with Kennesaw State as the offensive coordinator since 2013, and he runs a spread offense.
Here we go.
Stay tuned.
Ain't no way.
We'll see.
You're
you're right. Yeah, I'm interested to see.
Hold on now.
I'm interested.
You can run the triple option from gun, and that's what you saw.
Coastal kind of does.
Coastal, yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. So maybe it's just a new look triple option.
Don't look now. The midshipmen of the Naval Academy, the goats. No, I mean, well, it is interesting because the Air Force as of late, and I don't know how they're getting away with it, they've been recruiting some big-ass O-linemen, like same size as everybody else O-linemen. It didn't used to be that way. You used to have to work with O-linemen that were like 250 and could run, and you'd get freaking.
Let's say Matt Sprouse, you're looking at.
I was freaking born to be there, and when that didn't work out, I was screwed.
I need to
retract anywhere else.
Statement. I left a very important word out of what I said earlier.
Jeez.
He runs a spread option offense.
Oh, there it is.
The more I'm reading, I'm reading the article. It said he ranked at Kennesaw State. He ranked top 3 in FCS rushing 6 of the last 7 years. I was like, that doesn't add up with the spread offense. And I was like, oh, spread option offense.
I just like
that
spread.
makes more sense.
Just spread them out.
But that could be, kind of that gun option. A lot of pop pass type plays.
Yeah, RPOs.
Yeah, well,
a little more east to west throwing. Yeah. Like get them outside. Get your athletes out in space.
That's what you got to do.
Look out for Navy. It's an interesting one. Eric Morris at North Texas, another former Incarnate Word guy. So Kenny took over for Morris at Incarnate Word. Another Texas guy, North Texas. They're another one that they're right close to Dallas. I mean, they are in the heart of it. Great facilities there, great. Their stadium's sweet. It's pretty cool. They got an indoor. Mean Green. No reason they're not successful. I was a little bit surprised that they fired Luttrell, though, after making the conference championship game a year ago. But, it is what it is. I think that'd been coming for a long time, and they just, unless they won that game against UTSA, I think he was out. But it's an interesting hire. What do y'all think?
I think both Morris and Kenny at Texas State are just at a immediate disadvantage in the recruiting with Jeff Traylor over there at UTSA. Yeah. It's going to be extremely difficult. But if either one of those guys has some success within the first 1 or 2 seasons, the recruiting's already going to be super competitive, but then you're going to have a guy that's going to have to make a choice between UTSA, Texas State, and North Texas. And you hope to see all 3 of those teams having success and playing at an elite level. And you hope that Texas State and North Texas can compete for these guys that are in Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana area. You hope they can compete recruiting wise with UTSA.
Well, not only do
Yeah,
they got to
go ahead.
compete with those guys, but Houston,
Yeah.
University of Texas at Austin. I mean, you got Texas has so many schools. SMU, it's just got so many schools in Texas, but they're supposed to be the richest, as far as high school athletes go. So it's definitely a battle for Texas, and you got a lot of teams, schools that are really, really trying to keep that product in the state and not let them go.
How close is San Antonio to Dallas Fort Worth area? Because Dallas, you got. I mean, I know North Texas isn't Denton, but it's Dallas is the closest major city. University of Texas, Austin's relatively close, isn't it?
So,
Or am I making that up?
Dallas to San Antonio's almost about 4.5 hours drive.
Is Austin? Oh,
It's
well,
about an
Austin-
hour. Austin's
yeah.
about an hour.
Yeah, Austin's about an hour.
So you got SMU, you got North Texas up there near Dallas, and then you're gonna have UTSA, Texas,
UTEP over in the west.
Yeah. I mean, but there's enough though. I mean, there's
I think so.
and they all have something. I mean, you think UTSA probably has the best overall facilities, but they play at the Alamo Dome, which it's cool when we went. It's loud, but it's not on campus. Texas State, they got the river, they got the nightlife, they got a cool little stadium, and then North Texas has probably the best stadium of them all. They got the indoor. So everybody's got something. So you would like to see all three of them be competitive, and all three of them have something that they're selling, and a certain type of kid goes to each one, and they're all three good, and it helps all three of them. That's what you want to see.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to bring up the Power Five, but growing up, I mean, Miami, Florida, and Florida State were all three like top 5 every year, and they were competing for recruits, but they were all good, and it was good for all of them. Now they all suck, and they all suck together. So, yeah. I mean, who cares? Everybody can be rich. Real quick, I know we're running out of time. We got 3 more. We got a couple in the MAC. Lance Taylor at Western Michigan. I don't know a whole lot. I know he's got a lot of stops in the NFL, which is probably going to be his selling point as far as recruiting goes. The good thing about the MAC is we talk about it every single year. They all go 500. So any year, any of them can shift and be the champ. Any year, any of them can shift and be, bottom of the MAC. So you don't have to do a lot to turn Western Michigan into a competitor in the MAC, but it's going to be hard to do much of anything up there, is my thought.
Yeah, and they've had the ability to recruit some quality talent over the last, couple of years. But being again a first time head coach is just going to be interesting to see, how he can recruit up there, because that seems to be, one of the biggest factors. I mean, he had just looking at his stint, like you said, he had a long time in the NFL. Was at Notre Dame for a little while, Louisville as the OC for a year. So, I mean, Notre Dame's kind of up in that area. But it's just going to be interesting to see how he can recruit, the North, the MAC just territories in general.
Do y'all think that it's more difficult? So we talked about North Texas and the Texas schools. There's so many schools in Texas. Florida, there's so many schools in Florida. There's so many schools in California. Do you think, though, that it's more difficult in like MAC country where the states themselves are pretty small? And like if you're Western Michigan, like everybody growing up probably wants to go to Michigan. Yeah, Michigan State a little bit, but everybody wants to go to Michigan. Where if you're FAU recruiting South Florida, you got kids that grow up Miami fans, you got Florida State fans, you got Florida fans, you got kids that whatever don't even really care. So like you don't have that. You don't have as much of the like just one school. And if they don't go to one school, and then in the MAC too, like it's so congested up there mean, all those schools are relatively close. I mean, I don't know how many schools are in Michigan and Ohio. And then you really got the two main Big Ten schools, Michigan and Ohio State, that everybody that grows up, north of Tennessee probably wants to go to. So I almost think it's more difficult at a place like that where if you're North Texas, yeah, sure, people want to go to Texas or Oklahoma, but there's also probably 200 high schools in Dallas metro area. So I think there's just more talent for more school. I don't know. That's just a thought I had.
And he's probably going to be recruiting in the Northeast as well. I mean, just anywhere around there is like you mentioned, it's a lot of Big Ten teams fandom, and it's kids wanting to go to those Big Ten schools. But like you said, Sprouse, I think his time that he's had in the NFL is a massive selling point because he can tell those kids that he knows exactly what it takes to be on an NFL roster, to get on an NFL roster, and he can show them the way if they come and join his football team. So I think that's it's got to be. I feel like it's got to be one of his top selling points that he tries and sell in recruiting while he's there at Western Michigan.
Yeah, 100%. And Western Michigan, they're not that far off from when PJ Fleck. Wait, am I making that up? He was there, wasn't he? Western Michigan. Yeah, I mean they were about to play for a New Year's Bowl, weren't they? Or did play in a New Year's Bowl. I know they beat Middle one year in a bowl game, and it was like the year before they got really good. And then remember. PJ Fleck got poached. So they're a couple years off from being a 10-win, a 10+ win team. They've had what's the receiver that went to the Titans from there?
Corey Davis.
Corey Davis out of there. I mean, they've had some players out of there. That's one that they got a chance. Also in the MAC, Kenny Burns going to Kent State. Immediate thing that I saw with him is they lost the quarterback to UCLA, I believe, Colin Schlee. Yeah. They lose Marquez Cooper, the running back, and they lose Cephas, the receiver. So right away you lose your big three on offense. Not a great way to start. And with them two, their head coach, it wasn't a situation where he got fired. He went and took the OC job with Dion at Colorado. So that's a one where it wasn't like let's fire this guy and get somebody new. It was like, oh man, our guy left. So a little bit interesting there.
Yeah, and they've also lost a lot more in the portal. They've gotten a couple guys too, but losing their safety Dean Clark to Fresno State, Jashawn Polk, their receiver, to West Virginia. So I mean, there's just a handful of guys. I'm just looking down this list that went to other places. Their 4-star receiver Devontae Walker goes to North Carolina. I mean, you're just losing a lot, and that's asking a lot for a guy to come in and replace that many guys, especially like you said, Schlee and those other guys, the starters. It's just going to be tough to replace that, and I don't see it. Yeah. I mean, so far in the portal, I don't see them replacing all those guys. Yeah. So unless they've just had a fantastic, high school recruiting, but now you're asking a bunch of freshmen to come in and play.
Yeah, and I mean, same thing with the rest of them in the MAC. I mean, they could very easily, turn it around, win 2 or 3 more games, and be a top team in the conference. But they also could, lose 1 or 2 more and be at the bottom. So Kent State, that'll be the MAC again. Same thing as always. The MAC is the MAC, and there's for whatever reason, nobody has seemed to be able to separate themselves from the rest of the pack,
especially consistently.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's like that. It's like you think you finally have. I mean, we thought NIU. We thought this is it. NIU is going to win 11 games this year. Tip called it though. Tip said they had too many close games. He didn't like it. But you think you have a team like that? I mean, Toledo ended up being really good, but I mean, they didn't just beat up on everybody in the conference. So. It's interesting up there. Last one is Kevin Wilson at Tulsa. Spent a lot of time at Indiana as a head coach. I think he was at Ohio State for a little bit. He was in the MAC at Miami of Ohio for a little bit. So been around a long time. Tulsa, you lose your quarterback to Georgia Southern. You're in a tough conference. I don't even know if the swag bear is still on the Tulsa bandwagon, but what do y'all think about that one?
And kind of similar to Coach Burns at Kent State. It's tough when you come into a new program, new team. You've lost a lot of guys from the last season, the previous seasons, and it's gonna be difficult. Your main selling point with those two coaches is gonna be, hey, I've lost a lot of starters from last year's team. You can come in and play immediately, and he's gonna get some good players out of that, and hopefully they stay there for a long time and continue to play with these two coaches. But to come in and get a new offensive defensive scheme, plus all these new players and young players that are going to be coming in to these two programs, it's gonna be tough. Unfortunately, I think both of these guys might have some down years this year, but it's usually with these new coaches, year 2 and then year 3 is when you should see the turnaround, when you have all those guys playing in those same schemes for 2 or 3 consecutive seasons. So I hope that these two schools keep these guys long enough to give them the opportunity to get success and get their players they want to come in there and to help them be successful. I unfortunately think that this upcoming season, Kent State and Tulsa might have some down years.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. The good news for Tulsa, you'd think, is, I mean, you lose your 3 best teams in that conference. Yeah, you replace them. UTSA, UAB are going to be really good, but other than UTSA, you lose Cincinnati, UCF, Houston. You pick up UTSA, Charlotte, FAU. It's probably not quite the level as the Cincinnatis and the UCFs. Although Tulsa always gave UCF problems, so
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe that's a loss for Tulsa now. But you lose probably your top 3 in the conference, so you'd like to think long term they can maybe step up and be one of the leaders. But time will tell on all these guys, really. And I mean, how many of them are there? That'd be an interesting question. We just take these 13 right here in 2023, and by 2025, how many of them are still the head coach at their current spot? Who knows?
I think 2025, you're going to have
it might be a
good percentage, but
yeah.
After year 3, year 4, how many of these guys are still there? I don't know. It's tough to tell. Usually, sometimes in college, schools can be a little more lenient when you have when your record is 500 or 4-win seasons 3 or 4 years in. I'd say at least 50%, maybe a little more of these guys are still there in 3 to 4 years.
Well, I think what you're going to run into is the ones that aren't successful in 3 to 4 years will be gone, and the ones that do really, really well will be gone. So,
well, I look at this list and I don't know, because you do have a lot of guys that have kind of been around a long time. So, are they really looking to go like Wilson at Tulsa? Like, is he looking to go back into the Big Ten? I don't know. Chadwell.
How long did he sign for at Liberty? I was just trying to think of that.
Here's the thing, though. Chadwell could have went just about anywhere in the country a year or two. You got to believe he could have took the Auburn job. I would have. Well, I don't know. Maybe not over Hugh Freeze, but before Harsin got there, you got to think he had SEC or ACC calling on him, and he never went. He went to Liberty, and he's saying all the things as if he's going to be at Liberty for a long time. But we know what coaches say a lot of things.
Looking at this list now that we're kind of talking about this, like I mentioned earlier, I could if Tom Herman comes into FAU and has success, I think he'll be gone and he'll go to a Power 5 school. Chadwell, I don't know, because like you said, Sprouse, he could have gone just about anywhere and chose Liberty. So I think there's something to that decision with him.
Dilfer will be gone.
Dilfer will be gone. I think Coach Golish for your UCF Bulls, I think he's out to try and prove that he can have success, and it's not all Josh Heupel. So I think if he has success, he'll be gone as well.
I agree. It's also one more thing, and then we'll roll. And this is not to this is not to knock these programs because I'm a city guy and I would like to stay. But unfortunately, schools like FAU, like South Florida, kind of like UAB, are not. They don't tend to be places where somebody's going to set up shop with their family and make it home. They're just not. I mean, for whatever reason, not a lot of people have seemed to do that. FAU since Schnellenberger was there forever trying to build the program, and then he built it, and he retired. And then at South Florida, I mean, that's just been because they've not been very good. But I don't know how many coaches they've been through. Charlie Strong was there for a little bit.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, so I don't know, man. We'll see. But 13 of them, I don't know, man. In 5 years, I'd say 7 are still where they're at. That's probably put it right about 50-50. I think you're right. That's all we got for you guys tonight. Before we go, you guys make sure, if you do like the show, to subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Do us a huge favor. Leave us a review. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a 5-star rating. And please share with your family and friends. And then you can follow us on all social media platforms at Group of 5 Guys. We'll catch you in 2 weeks. If not before then, we're out.